Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Roots and Gaps. Today I will be sharing with everyone a different perspective on a Hmong person. And before we get to that, let's roll that intro. Now this is usually I have bullet points before I start doing my videos. Today it's more freestyle, so forgive me if I'm sort of everywhere. First and foremost, I want to say I made a video about my comments, but it seems like the arguments keeps going, and the purpose of my channel is to talk about the roots and gaps of Hmong, right? I'm Hmong, and I want to share this information with the world, including my Hmong community and everyone who isn't Hmong. The reason why it's so important to me is because I am Hmong, and it will affect me. So I'm just gonna say that after this video, if there's some kind of argument going on, I'm not gonna try to respond to everyone because that's not what I'm here for. I'm trying to be more informative, right? Trying to let everyone see a different side. I'm trying to help us open our mind. That's my goal, because there is a big gap between us Hmong Americans to Hmong in China, our roots, because of the migration and whatnot, right? And the migration didn't even happen just in Laos, Thailand, and into America. It happened to Vietnam and also to Burma. So after this video, I'm not going to say anything too much about any argument or anything. I do want to say though, I want to encourage you all who do speak out about Hmong. I'm thankful that we're all trying, right? But there was a guy who commented about Hmong having identity crisis, and then he went on about DNA and whatnot. Something that I would like to see us Hmong people do is, especially ones like him, is what's the purpose of a DNA test, right? You can't just say there's this DNA test and this is Hmong, and then you compare it to other DNA. You technically can't do that. You have to understand what a DNA test is before you go on further with your details, right? The DNA test is more about the individual and his or her family line. Stuff like that. That's my encouragement. And again, I can't force everyone to, try to be open-minded. I've already stated that, I'm trying to be as neutral as possible, right? But then it's, I think some people think that, I'm one-sided, but I'm technically not. Because, although I talk about meow, right? And for the record, I do think it's important that we talk about this topic, because if Hmong still exists in China, right, and they see it as a good thing, while some of us thinks it's a bad thing, something does not make sense, right? And then to be neutral about it is investigate why, right? What's the situation, right? And so on and so forth. Before I start blabbering more, let's get on to the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video today is I'm going to be talking about someone's perspective. This person is from China. He is a Hmong person in China. He was born there. He's a family that didn't migrate out of China after the Qing dynasty, okay? So he spoke about his perspective, and that's something I want to share. I hope that you will also be open to another perspective as well. All right, so let me play this video.
最头搞志兄啊，就是头古么搞志兄的时候，我都知道包的，伢这个老五对球呢，么梦要老五对球，头嘛，都知道那啥的，伢好电视咯，伢手机咯，啊，都知道包。mà thầu mà cũng cần đâu mà cỡ cho chú trong mà cũng nhìn nhé chia tiền sử ít rồi cũng nhìn nhận chia tiền sử thầu mà chia mỗi món chia cho cậu ó tình đau cũng do rồi rong thầu mà bên này là chú không giờ đấy bên gì nhìn nhận xuân đau đấy cả mà ở từ lâu nhìn qua bự là mà cũng hạn chia tiền sử mà cũng bỏ thiệt hậu tiền sử đã tua lúc新闻cả thầu tua chùa mà chúa trọ tạ nó đau bạo trọ mà cho trọ tạ bông trọ tọ liệt tọ tây lô bông trọ sổ trong tây mà chấm nhiều do mua sư là sư cho nâng lâu mua ô liêu tây mà tờ mà trọ tây tây tờ tây lót tà mà tây mà trọ không mà đi tiêu mà tây mà tua rồi tiêu mà chỉ thầm đâu là mà tây lấy bao thì lâu tây chờ này nửa mùa mông nhó thì là một thao dựng chế sẽ và thì sinh hoạt tây chờ nhó học từ.
All right, so here's a perspective of a Hmong person in China. His name is Choj Vang. His perspective was, growing up, he didn't think that there were any other Hmong people outside of China. He didn't know that there was Hmong people in Laos. The reason why this is important to know is because I've talked about in my channel that we're not the only Hmong, right? I say that because, we always talk about Hmong history and say that this is Hmong history, for example, the Secret War. Now, I'm not denying that the Secret War did not happen, okay? It did happen. It's our parents' experience, and so it did happen. However, I'm saying that it is not every Hmong person's experience. That's what I'm saying. Just imagine if you were a Hmong person who didn't migrate out of China for whatever reason, right? Imagine that that was you, right? Then all of a sudden you heard that there's Hmong people in Laos. And you're like, whoa, I did not know that. It's a whole different perspective, which is why I emphasize on my channel about being open about other topics, being open about other stories, being open about maybe certain things we thought were wrong. Maybe certain things was right, but maybe certain things were wrong. For example, the reason why I talk about meow is because, like I said, if they see it as a good word, right, and we, for some reason, see it as a bad word, that does not make sense, right? So it's important us to investigate and see what the situation is. And that's why I want to do Roots and Gaps, right? I want to explore certain things like this because literally my experience, and I spoke about it, and I hope you guys are open to it too, is that when I mentioned the word miaozu to a Chinese person, specifically a Han person, because I did state that we mistranslated the word Chinese, right? Chinese is more broad, okay? If we look at the definition of what Chinese means, let me pull it up right now. So, by definition, Chinese is a native or inhabitant of China or person of Chinese descent, okay? I don't know if it's too early for my video to bring this up, but then it's us saying that, our origins from China, we came from China, in theory, we're saying we're Chinese. That is one thing, okay? And Chinese is very broad. Just kind of like, I'm American born, right? Therefore, I'm American. But I'm also Hmong, right? It's that notion as well. Chinese is more broad. If you get to know China, there are 56 ethnicities. Chinese is more broad. When I realized that, right, that was when I started questioning, well, who are we referring to then if we keep pointing to the shore, right? Because if there's 56 ethnicities, it does not make sense that we had a history with 54 other ethnicities, right? Because there are some Chinese in northern China that may have never gone to southern China. So what I'm pointing out is I was trying to figure out who were we referring to when we said the word shuo. Remember, in my videos, I mentioned yi is yi, right? Ya, right? I mentioned that, right? And I said that multiple times. Yi will be considered Chinese, but they are their own ethnic group. We are also our own ethnic group. That being said, who was shuo? So it went back to me asking the elders, right? The stories were vague. Like I mentioned in my videos, everyone has their own take of the story. Everything's been passed on, right? But the story that was told to me was after our grandfather Chij passed away, we went south, and the group that stayed up north became their own group. While I was skimming through it, the Han Dynasty came afterwards. So therefore, it made sense that it was the Han that we were talking about. But it wasn't truly clear until I started understanding the population of each ethnicity in China. And the Hans were number one. So therefore, it made it even more clear that Shuo was Han. Okay? Therefore, that's why I said we mistranslated the word Chinese, which kind of makes sense because I don't know how our great-great-grandparents thought, but then at least from my parents and the elders that I've known, we thought we lost our home in China. And going into Vietnam, right? Vietnam, we named it after the majority of the ethnic group, right? We named it Nha La Te. In Vietnam, I haven't studied Vietnam yet, so I don't want to say too much about Vietnam. But when it gets to Laos and Thailand, the Laotian is the dominant group for Laos, and Thai is the dominant for Thailand, okay? Which would make sense why we would call China Shuote, which means Han's earth, right? They sort of means land. It comes from the word Daikou. In Chinese, it's 地球 for the word earth, right? So we are technically calling China Han's earth, okay? However, that's not the case for Hmong in China, and at least what I've seen from Hmong in Vietnam. They call China Zhonggu, which is a Hmong version of how Mandarin would say China, 中国, all right? So we didn't technically have a word for the word Chinese. So hence why all the confusion. I don't necessarily think Hmong has a identity crisis. I think there's just a big misunderstanding. There's a big confusion, right? Because the gap is so big, right? It's from the Qing Dynasty up to now. Technically, if we go backwards, right? Some of us did not know Hmong in China existed until recently. Something that we don't associate with Hmong in China, but that's actually not true. We just never knew how to go back and how to communicate with them. Because, for us, it's like, where is Pantala on the map? We can't figure that out unless we're in China. Unless we live in China, then we will know that, okay, Pantala will be in Wenshuan. This is something I want to do for my channel, is to be open about these things and, try to learn. There was one video where I mentioned about Chij, the guy who created the song 北人北货蒙, also known as 我们的名字叫苗族. That guy, he passed away. But he also said the same thing. Let me play it so that way you guys can see it, okay?
我的不但都够那个，还早上个我还得龙背和梦呢，让那些过生节，才樱桃，这首说，我将要收将揭露了呢，你看的呢，一切脚步一脚不老头了烟道呢，白天的包还得头人的背了带球说呢，要流落带球怎么蒙天，同早就被做包还得哦，你要那么蒙。bây giờ chính trị đó bao thì nhà lão chùa mà mong nè, cho họ bây giờ mua nhà là, bây giờ bao thì nhà là mà mong số lão chùa chứ, mua bây tay chưa số thì sẽ chỉ mua bây bàn đầu, dùng mua cho tàu anh này hôm nay sử dụng bàn nào là,
So I'm pretty much re-paraphrasing what he's saying, that, you know, they didn't know that Hmong migrated to Laos at all, right? They just thought that, you know, there were Hmong in Vietnam, and then when they found out that Hmong were in Laos, he was really happy about it. Now, I don't know about the other guy, the Choj Vang guy. I don't know, because he's a younger guy. I don't know when he realized that there was Hmong outside of China, but in terms of this elder guy, he stated that they didn't know until 1984, not too long ago. So that is important information for us to know. So why am I talking about this? And the reason why I think that it's important is because I don't love Hmong as a segregated group. I love Hmong for its entirety. I'm Hmong, and growing up, if you've seen my story, I didn't truly know what Hmong is because there were so many stories, right? And I didn't know what to believe, so I stopped chasing what is true until I started meeting mainland Chinese people who unintentionally showed me that what we thought was way different from what the reality is. Because when they heard that I was Miao Su, they were excited to meet me. From there, I learned that Hmong exists in China. I didn't know that Hmong was there. My thought process of if there was Hmong in China, then maybe they migrated from Laos or Thailand to China. I didn't think there was an existence of those who didn't migrate out, if that makes sense. And this is due to information that was passed on to me when I was growing up as a kid. And, you know, I'm not saying that my parents were wrong or the elders were wrong, but it makes sense. What I'm saying is that it makes sense why they would think this way, right? There was no social media back then, right? There was no cell phones back then. There was a lot of gaps, right? And on top of this, there's something I also want to share, something that's happening right now within the US. I normally don't like talking about politics, but it is happening. Basically, what I want to talk about is the deportation with ICE, right? It's been going on, and there's been rallies and whatnot. And there's this post that I thought it was very interesting that they posted, and I thought it was very important, and it needs to be addressed, okay? I think this part is very important, especially for us Hmong Americans, for us to know. So this post says, this Friday, August 8th at 5:30 p.m., there will be a rally for Michigan Hmong refugees detained by ICE. Liu Yang, a respected Hmong community leader, was detained by ICE on July 15th while at work. He came to the U.S. in 1978, where he was less than 1 year old, and has lived here ever since. According to the story, Liu was detained due to a criminal record from 1997. He was 18. He was convicted of second-degree home invasion and sentenced to 1 year. He served 10 months and was released early for good behavior. In 2002, the U.S. attempted to deport him, but both Laos and Thailand refused to accept him because he was born in a refugee camp and has no official citizenship there. So I'm going to stop there, okay? So this part, the part that I thought was very important that I wanted to discuss, and this is for the entire world. It stated that Laos and Thailand refused to accept him because he was born in a refugee camp and has no official citizens there. What some people don't understand about Hmong is that after the Qing dynasty, when there was a migration that happened, a lot of us went and lived in the mountains, right? We were never citizens of anywhere. We can't go back to China because that was so long ago, right? We can't go to Laos and Thailand because we were never citizens in the first place. That's what some people don't understand. And granted, there may be some who are citizens before the Secret War. I don't know. I have had a friend who I met who he said that when he was in Thailand, when he wanted to come to America, he had to get his citizenship before he can come to America. Some people don't understand that Hmong who migrated out of China doesn't have a place, right? Unless they are where they are now, they have citizenships. So that's something I want to bring up because it's very important to know. And this is something important for the outside world to know that unless it is now, right, Hmong who still lives in Laos currently will probably most likely be Laos citizen. Same goes to Thailand and everywhere else, okay? A lot of people don't know who the Hmong people are, and I am not a true representation of Hmong in Laos, right? Reason why I say that is because Hmong in Laos, they're now more civilized, right? Hmong in Laos, they're more civilized. They're not up in the mountains much anymore, right? They work in the cities, right? They use new words now. Like, for example, over here we will say Nia and Si for mom and dad. And sometimes if, we speak more English than Hmong, then we'll say mom or dad. And over there, they'll say May for mom and Pa for dad, right? And so on and so forth. There's more words that they used that we don't use. Granted, we did bring some words like ipa, right? 1000, right? The way we say it in Hmong is itia, right? Hmong is ita. We also brought the word ipa over, right? There are other words that we borrowed and brought it over, but we're not true representation of Hmong from Laos because oftentimes when I talk to a person in Laos, a Hmong person in Laos, I run into the situation to where they'll be like, oh, well, I don't know how to translate this anymore. There's not really a Hmong word for it, so they'll translate it to me from Laos to English or Thai to English because some of them can read Thai. It goes to show so much, right? And the reason why I'm talking about it is because it's an awareness. I'm not there in Michigan to support, but I do want to say through this video that the people you guys are deporting, some of them are not even Laos citizens. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because, although I don't want to talk about politics, I just want to say that if someone is illegally here, right? They have citizens. They didn't come here like illegally, right? And that's what you want to do, all right? I'm not saying names, then do it. But if someone came here legally, I think it's fair that they get the same treatment as a U.S. citizens. So enough of that. Thank you so much. Before I conclude this video, I want to explore more about Hmong China. On top of that, I'm also a filmmaker, and I've been trying to focus more on film. So forgive me if it's taken me a while, and also I want to announce that I'm actually moving back to California. So there may be at one point where it may be a very long time before I make another video. So I do apologize to those who do follow me, and I thank you guys so much for the support and everything. But if you don't see me for a while, just know that it's because I am moving to California. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to Roots and Gaps, and I will see you on the next episode.